Hello again. It has been a month, and honestly, that is because one, I've been so busy, and two, it's been a month since I've covered this show because this show has been irking my spirit. And if I'm going to have a channel called Meg and Me Smile, who am I to sit there and recap a show that is just really lacking in anything that's making me smile? But I said, let me give it another shot, see if I can even unpack anything that this show still has left to this season. It's crazy that there's even 19 seasons of this show. But with that being said, it's clear that the show we're recapping today is The Real Housewives of Orange County, season 19, episode 11. This title is called Loose Lips, Sink Trips. Clever. The last time I recapped this show was the New Orleans episode where Tamra reveals for the first time the whole naked wasted Kiki Monique storyline, and I just did not enjoy really how that even transpired, how it lasted for so many episodes. And also, to be perfectly honest, I don't like how Katie is not on the show right now. I will say I didn't notice her absence as much in this episode as I did in last week's, but I think that's because producers probably had a little bit of time right now where it didn't look like they were testing every single one of the current members' new friends by bringing them to this weird makeshift beach trip. But we have I guess a trip of substance now, two trips rather, with the two different groups of the girls separating, and Katie's not there, and it overall feels like a real bummer to me. But I wanted to sit here in my pajamas because they have a pajama party on this episode. Mine aren't, monogrammed everywhere. Terribly sorry. But I'm going to recap this episode, see, what we can really pull from it. And honestly, I'm even wondering, does Katie come back before the season ends? We are on episode 11, but we'll see. But where we left off last time was that we had two groups going on separate trips. Tamra is bringing the women to a house in Temecula, and then you have Heather Dubrow bringing the other women for a fancy sleepover at her house. If I had to choose a trip to go on, no question, I would be at that sleepover. No questions asked. Don't even know which side Katie was going to be on, if she was a part of these plans in the beginning. But there's an uneven division of the girls, and so I feel like maybe she would have been at Heather's. I don't know. But we pick up with the first group in Temecula. We have Tamra, Gina, Shannon, and Jen all there. And we pick up here with Gina saying at dinner to Shannon, I am worried about you. I am worried that sometimes there are, unpredictable drinking habits still with you, and I'm sober now and you helped me a lot through that time, that I just really care deeply for you and think of you. Tamra does try to pop up here, but Gina says, no, wait a minute though, I said what I said about Tamra pulling you aside at the vineyard for a drink, and this was in the last episode, because I don't appreciate all the things she said about you and your drinking habits last season, only to pull you away for a drink on this season, which I agree. There is definitely something a little hypocritical about that. So I'm glad that Big G held her ground there, but I'm still, I'm not fully okay with her. She's not off the hook with the whole Katie of it all. But with all of this, Tamra just says that she's damned if she does, damned if she doesn't. I do kind of feel like Tamra is that way, but it's also hard to gauge what the reactions of people are going to be in certain situations, I suppose. And Shannon just says, really, Tamra, thank you. You've been very kind to me already on this trip. I just need time, because to be fair, Tamra can't just go and say some of those really awful, horrible things to people, and then just the moment she says sorry, they're just supposed to forgive her and we're supposed to move on. The forgiveness there is not linear, so I get that. But with that being said, Tamra says, let's go back to the house and get into some shenanigans, meaning Shannon agains. But based on the recent news in the outside world, outside of the show, man, if Sheena Shea was watching this episode and heard Tamra say shenanigans, I feel like her heart probably would have fallen out of her butt, because her podcast is Shenanigans, and there's been some issues with the whole Kiki Monique of it all that Sheena has somehow found her way into. And you know what? I'm going to say it here. I've said it to a couple of my creators that I listen to. Clip this when it happens, folks. my prediction, give it 2 seasons, maybe even next season if we're crazy, Sheena and Brock are going to be on Real Housewives of OC next. From what I've heard, she hasn't filmed much or anything with the Valley. I truly could see her trying to be getting on OC right now. If you think about it, with her involvement with this whole Kiki Monique, her friendship with Gretchen, the beef with Shenanigans versus like 2 T's in a Pod, Teddy and Tamra's show, I'm like, Sheena would bring the mess to that show. And you know, Sheena would, she would bring it, but I don't know. Let's not yet. So let's just cut back to the other group. We have Emily and Gretchen that are having a sleepover at Heather Dubrow's house. But before we get to the house, they're also at dinner. And this is where we see that Heather does kind of start to air out her frustrations with Tamra. Wanted to explain to her that, you know, when you do act pretty volatile and unpredictable, you know, out in public and stuff, it can be a little triggering for me because in the past, you know, my father did very similar things. And so it just kind of like signals my fight or flight to go off. And I really don't want that with my friendship with you. And rather than even asking more about her family or anything, Tamra's like, well, I don't do that. And it just really sucks to kind of have a friend that can hear that little snippet of you being vulnerable, which we don't get much of from Heather Dubrow. But Tamra just, she's not even thinking about Heather and her story. She's just thinking about how it mentions her even like a little bit. So that's a little frustrating there. And you know, Emily does bring up here that it doesn't feel like Tamra can really have genuine relationships because with every interaction she has with her quote unquote friends, they almost feel like transactional or strategic, which does make sense because a few of my other creators that I really like following, you know, like shout out Broth Bros or Bros and Shows, shout out Ryan Bailey. They do mention, you know, Tamra has a really, really successful podcast with Teddy Mellencamp, 2 T's in a Pod. And it was like one of the first like Bravo people to have a podcast outside of the show. And so I know that there are definitely episodes that she's not allowed to be on due to like conflict of interest. But what I will say is her having the podcast and being able to talk about other housewives or just like the world of Bravo, it's like she's getting like extra practice in the off season. It kind of feels that way to me. Maybe it doesn't feel that way to others, but it's like she gets to eat, sleep, and breathe Bravo and monetize her life off of it. So she knows she wants to be good at it, to be successful. So I'm just like, I don't know how I feel. I mean, Emily hit the nail on the head, but let's not forget, as far as I still remember, Emily's podcast is under Tamra's 2 T's network, or I could be wrong about that, but I thought that that was the case, Legally Brunette. But yeah, so I mean, if they all have a podcast, they're all kind of practicing now, but Tamra really, like, she's got, you know, she's got a lot of episodes she puts out, really Housewives focused, and so I feel like that can be a conflict of interest. But anywho, the 3 women decide to leave dinner, and before they go home after their sleepover, they decide they want to stop at the Abbey. Interesting choice. Of course, Emily has gummy worms fall out of her bag because what would an episode of Real Housewives of Orange County be if Emily didn't have some random food product fall out of her purse? But I can't help but wonder if the trip to the Abbey, which clearly was like coordinated with them. I've been there. I went like during the day once, so it wasn't like super packed and stuff. And like just when I did my little loop of places. But it just feels timely that they're going there with like the recent like social media posts that have resurfaced that Gretchen has either reposted or liked or whatever it is. And I know she's coming out and saying it's fake. I don't think that's the case, but I don't know. But it's just interesting that they would be taking them to the Abbey because I'm like, that just doesn't really align with like so much of what we know about Gretchen and her lifestyle. But whatever, it looks like they're having a good time. Gretchen's up on like the stripper pole and chugging a bottle of champagne, and I'm just like, this just doesn't look great to see like after all the like the naked wasted of it all. But hey, you can't stop a girl from getting down. Cut to Emily, who literally is, I mean, Gretchen's like, it is like she is like a dog in heat, like needs to be getting some at home. But you know what? Live your best life. Let your freak flag fly. I don't care. Even Heather's having a bit of a fun time. She wasn't expecting all that, but you know what? You can't, you can't be miserable in that scenario, in my opinion. But when we ride home, Emily FaceTimes with Shane and Luke. And guys, I have to be honest, before I was saying I felt like Emily bringing up Luke's health and different issues that he's facing and that they're working through. I felt like it was a little like exploitative. Sorry, off duty. But the more I think about it, the more I think of the demographic that watches this show. And I would hope that even if there is one person watching and they saw what Emily was going through, then maybe it would make them look inward at their family. You know, I said the same exact thing when we had that very heartfelt scene of Mary Cosby and her son at the end of the last season of Salt Lake, and how like that scene being on camera is so important for so many parents or children and parents or anybody watching this show to have talks about. While this is a little different, I do think it's good to mention what Luke's going through, what their family's going through, and how they're battling this as parents and their parenting choices. But, you know, I'm torn on it because, like, I want to be happy with the fact that somebody could learn from what she's going through. So, I don't know. But after that FaceTime call ends, Gretchen, Gretchen is just rambling in her drunken stupor. And when she does, she goes, man, I wish that we had gone to a karaoke bar tonight. And I'm like, that's a random thing to say. Almost like you intentionally wanted to put that line out there so that you could follow up by saying next, you know, I have 4 songs out. You know, Tamra, you know, she has a song. And we're like, wait, what? Turns out that in this story, Tamra wanted to try to record a song, and it was when she was bleeping whoever this 90s Gen X pop star boy band guy is. Some bloggers or creators or whatever, they allege that it's one of the guys from 98 Degrees. I don't even want to like say his name because I know he's like married and he and his wife and obviously Tamra and Eddie are upset about all this, but yeesh, like that's weird. But like saying that like, oh yeah, we recorded it back when she was doing so and so, and it's like, wait, okay, now I really feel like Gretchen had a mission, even being a little sloshed, to get this out there. But you're being a little messy right now, so you might have gotten it out there a little bit wrong. But by that point, we get back to Heather's, where we see this beautiful layout in one of her bedrooms, because, you know, she probably has like 12 rooms, with these cute little beds for everyone. Monograms everywhere, because we know Heather Dubrow loves a monogram. You've got the eye mask with the monogram, you have like the PJs and everything, and they look super cute. They're just like jumping around, having so much fun, and I mean, like, I would too, my goodness. And then when we learn that it is a $15,000 Heather Dubrow sleepover, oh my gosh, every year my invitation gets lost in the mail. I have to make sure that she has my address written down right, because like, my gosh, I just know I would be such a good, lavish, luxe, opulent, rich person. I would be so good at it. Oh my gosh, please. But let's get back to Temecula real quick and see what Tamra and the other girls are up to. They're cracking me up because they have these oversized, maybe I should have gotten one in honor of this episode, but it was too late. But I'm wearing an oversized shirt, I guess, in honor of their oversized t-shirts that have like the bikini on them. Because I know like Shannon was like, I don't want to like be on camera in like a real bathing suit. So these are cute. They have like the little like synchronized swimming caps on, and they're making these like cute little moves up and everything, and you know, it's adorable. But what cracks me up even more is that Gina goes and whips out a little, you know, little roll of the devil's lettuce here, and says this is one of Dubrow's like highest of high quality emergency to partake in. So they grab that. I'm like, that's how we get down, you know. I maybe it was a party favor from Heather's party, because remember she had that there. But they're getting ready to go into the hot tub or into the pool or whatever. But first, Gina sits down with Tamra in one of the bedrooms and just says, you know, your delivery is just a little harsh sometimes. And I really just wish that you reflected and decided on, you know, how you were going to say things to people, because how it might sound in your head is not always how it comes out. We cut to the other bedroom that has the other 2 women, Shannon and Jen, sitting in there, and Jen comes in. Shannon's like asleep, like, girl, Get up, Shannon, come on, we are working, you are sleeping on the job. But Jen comes in and says, I just want to let you know, when I was chatting with Gina a bit, Gina even shared, I don't get all deep down and dirty with all my secrets with Tamra either, because I know when I'm at my lowest, that is when she'll whip them out and use them against me. Because unfortunately, it seems like we've seen experiences or moments in time where Tamra has done that, and that really sucks. And so I think Jen came and told this to Shannon to sympathize with her, but I think it was just important that these two side conversations happened with Shannon and Tamra separate before we cut back to the Dubrow sleepover, which is consisting of Gretchen acting like a 5-year-old, jumping on, the beds and having a pillow fight and this, that, and the third. I could not have acted like that in the Dubrow household, but to be fair, this feels like it was like Gretchen's first sleepover ever, so whatever, have your fun. It's wild, unhinged, but they're about to go get ready for dinner because the staff has prepared dinner for them. Because of course, at a Heather Dubrow $15,000 sleepover, you have a staff making dinner for you. But when they headed into dinner at that point, they call a truce on the pillow fight, because Heather's like, what are you guys doing? Dinner's ready. Emily, Gretchen, and Heather go in for dinner. And that's when Emily and Heather really don't let up on Gretchen and the whole, what's going on with this phone? Or what's up with your phone? Go get it, call Slade, get the song, we need to hear Tamra's song. And I mean, Gretchen is really not wanting to engage in this any further. She already realizes she might have spoken too much. They're all a little drunk still. This dinner is more like a fourth meal, if I had to gather. And she just was like, I'll get my phone, but I don't know. While she's going to go and get her phone, Heather and Emily are kind of looking at each other like, what is this about to be? Everything's just kind of odd. And that's when they FaceTime Slade. And this is where things get weird, guys, because I know we've talked before about how it seems like Gretchen and Slade are producing a bit, and you guys will see at the end when I talk about the fact that my Watch What Happens Live question was asked and Slade answered it, not Gretchen. But we'll get into that later. But this part is where things get a little messy and maybe not according to plan, because when they FaceTime Slade, who's probably happy as a lamb that he's getting some camera time right now, and Gretchen asks him about Tamra's song and, didn't somebody send it to you, or blah blah blah, what's the deal? This is where Slade continues the story, and I don't know if he was just freestyling in this moment to make a mess or a storyline, or if this was actually the case and he never told Gretchen, or Gretchen knew this but didn't think that Slade was going to say it on camera. But this is where he tells Emily and Heather, and I guess now Gretchen, that Tamra and this mystery singer started messing around in the studio and forgot they were still recording. So when he says messing around, he's kind of alluding to a hookup. He's like, well, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. And mind you, Gretchen had already made that comment in the car that she was bleeping whoever. So that's weird, because even Gretchen was like, you never told me that. I didn't know that part of it. Gretchen's mouth is open, jaw dropped, mouth agape, trying to backpedal, being like, no, I said we had the audio of this song, but that somebody had sent it to you, but maybe you don't have it now. But I don't know about the other audio that was played that I guess maybe have some sounds of whatever messing around would have sounded like. But at this point, neither Gretchen nor Slade seem to have a story straight, and Emily's like, whatever, man, I'm going to bed. I just wanted to hear the damn song and Tamra singing. And it just kind of feels like Slade is giving obsessed, or meddling with production, which is what I asked, but they revised my question at the end. We'll talk about that with Watch What Happens Live. But Gretchen's obviously annoyed because she just called Slade and obviously did not get the answer she wanted. She just wanted to hear the song. I'm even thinking she could have texted him beforehand. I don't know. I wouldn't, if I was, FaceTiming my significant other, I'd probably, and if they knew I was gonna be on camera, I'd probably give them just a heads up on what was going to be discussed, but whatever. But let's get back to the ladies in Temecula. They're in the hot tub in their cute little bikini shirts and everything. They're partaking in the classy, Dubrow joint And Gina at this point is pretty zooted and cabooted, and just brings up the fact again that she is just so scared for Shannon and her health. Shannon shares that she doesn't want a hit of it because she has like a cough and stuff, and she's just taking care of that and doesn't want to inhale anything. And if we remember just a couple episodes ago, we learned that Gina, ex-husband Matt, had a pretty bad heart attack, and that could have been so traumatic for not only their kids, but like his wife, Travis, even just that would have shaken up a lot of things. And so I think that just like preserving our health and taking care of us has been on Gina's mind. And so I can see why she's, mentioning this. At this point, they're chatting a bit more and decide, let's, hop out, get ready for bed. We'll get started with the day tomorrow. So both parties go to bed, we close out, and now day 2 of our respective trips. We have the ladies in Temecula with Shannon kind of taking the reins in the kitchen, making breakfast. She is definitely the kind of person that doesn't want anyone in there bothering her. But, while we're in there, Tamra's trying to like make little small talk with her anyway, but Shannon's just like, like leave me alone, like just doesn't want anything to do with it. But what I will say about this scene, because we're all in the kitchen anyway, I know you're making breakfast, and I know that's such a lovely and kind thing to do for them, Shannon, but God love ya. But would it ruin your life to just brush your hair for one of these scenes, my love? Can we please just, even just a little bit of, a little something, and just, actually, you know what, you can go makeup free, girl, whatever, but just, can we brush the hair? I guess maybe I just have like this personal thing that annoys me about people that I know have serious coin and don't spend it on keeping themselves presentable. I don't know. I say that, and I have a ponytail, and I'm in this large freaking t-shirt filming this on my phone, and I say all that, but it's like, but I'm also not Shannon Storm Spador, so whatever. But they're, making their breakfast and stuff like that, and the ladies over at the Dubrows, it's a bit different because they're not making breakfast. The staff's making breakfast for them because, of course, and Terry Dubrow, husband Terry, Terra Bear, comes to join them for breakfast. They all sit down and have this beautiful spread of breakfast. Oh my gosh, I am so jealous. Gosh, I want the Dubrows to adopt me so badly. Please, like, all your kids are awesome too. Whatever. But while they're at breakfast, Emily and Heather just start making small talk about Gretchen and Slade. If I had to argue, I wouldn't be surprised if Emily and Heather maybe texted each other a little bit and were like, you know what, let's put Gretchen on the spot, because already she and Slade kind of made us look foolish for like wanting to listen to that song, even though Gretchen's the one that brought it up. Maybe it wasn't that deep, but we also know back in the day, the last time we saw Gretchen on our screens, we were under the impression that she was going to marry Slade. She was, getting offended that the other women weren't taking it as seriously. And I think now, however many years later, the fact that they are not married and I guess technically still engaged, Heather's like, you know what? Don't call me a mean girl back in the day for doubting things, because look at where we are. So I'm going to keep asking my questions. But during their breakfast, Emily and Heather start to just like casually, but then soon more pointedly ask questions to Gretchen about, would you ever get married to Slade? What's holding you back? I know in the past you mentioned maybe just him handling his finances first. We get a flashback of Gretchen proposing, I think it was like on the roof of a building outside of a helicopter. She was proposing to him at the season finale, I think, or whatever.
You are my future. So with this ring, I hope you'll say yes.
And like that's the last we saw of that. We also had her, I think, maybe talking to like a lawyer or like a marriage counselor about her reservations for marrying.
Because Slade is trying to get caught up on some of the back debt and trying to get the things resolved within.
But you also don't want to take that on in a marriage.
I don't want to take it on.
I mean, is it iconic? Yes. Is it a mess? Also yes. But they're asking, well,
how do you decide who pays for stuff? Like, you buy groceries. Do you split the groceries? Just is one in charge?
I don't know. It comes out of my account.
Do you guys have a joint bank account separate? Which bills does Slade pay for? Oh, so-and-so does this, or I do the groceries, And eventually she's like, this is starting to feel like a specific line of questioning. And you can tell she's starting to feel a little uneasy about it. I I wouldn't really talk about my finances, you know, with my spouse at the dinner table on camera, but obviously the situation with Slade is very different. And you know what? Slade wants to be a housewife so bad. You're gonna have to be brought up, my guy. So let's move on from that though, because after breakfast, you know, obviously the staff comes in, cleans it up, everything. And Heather, of course, has in-home massages ready for them in the other room. And they're all like kind of laying down, getting every knot and everything out of every crevice. Oh my gosh. What does it feel like to be God's favorite, Heather? What do I have to do? But while their heads are like down in the thing, Gretchen's like, you guys, you know, are gonna get me in trouble. Please don't tell Tamra about the whole song thing, blah, blah, blah. And Emily's like, no, you brought it up. We're not playing that game. I will say, Emily annoys me more times than not. And her using her whole like I'm a lawyer shtick does not always fly with me, especially when she would use the Innocence Project as a storyline when it was convenient to her only for 1 year, only to then bring in a polygraph test guy that is like not even reliable. I don't know, but you need a win in there occasionally, and Emily has a win in here because while Gretchen is truly deflecting about the whole like Tamra of it all and how like Tamra running and doing this in the press X, Y, and Z, how is that any different than something that Gretchen heard or blah, 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 X, Y, Z, but like she's like saying the same thing, but I don't think she realizes until she says it that she's comparing what she has done, accusing Tamra of an affair, really, with that singer in the recording studio. That's pretty much what Tamra may or may not have done to Gretchen many years ago. So Emily says, like, you guys are basically the same. So how can you sit here and harbor on this when now you're on an equal playing field with her? So whack 'em, Emily, whack 'em. But we cut back now to Temecula, the house, Shannon, Tamra, Jen, and Gina. And they had their nice breakfast in the backyard, beautiful views there. And Jen just is making small talk, asking what they all got to do when they go back. Gina has an open house for school. They're all kind of sharing. And then Shannon's like, well, I'll just walk the dog because, I mean, nobody else is there. And like, I know she can be annoying as sin sometimes, but like, that just made me really sad. Like, just to hear Shannon talk about how she's very alone. And I mean, better than being with her ex probably, but it just was sad. And even Jen's like pitying her and saying, like, you know, I feel sorry for you, I worry about you. And like everyone kind of gets a little bit emotional, and Shannon, you know, tears up and says, you know, I grew up in a very chaotic household. You know, my parents had a very tumultuous relationship, to the point where like the divorce processing person, like the court processing server, couldn't make it to our house to serve my father divorce papers in time, that we all just had to go on with the family barbecue, not even knowing that it was supposed to happen that day. And we really share, like she shares a lot, we hear a lot about this, and we know Shannon's father too. He's 96, he's been on the show, which is why it really feels uncomfortable when Tamra chimes in and goes, oh well, yeah, and wasn't your dad, didn't he have a bit of a drinking problem too?
But didn't you say you had a drinking problem growing up, when you were growing up?
Tam, I get it that you're trying to be helpful, but like my dad is 96 years old.
And that's when Shannon gets heated and snapped, and you know, it's just like, how is that relevant to the story I'm telling about me? And my father is 96. He doesn't have those issues anymore. He has been on this show, and you don't need to be putting his name out or his story like that. Like, let me tell the story about my father if I want to. Like, how dare you? And Tamra's just like, okay, you know. And Gina's trying to give her grace, but Jen's not having it. She's like, that wasn't cool, you know. So they kind of go back and forth for a while. In my opinion, I think that was a dig on purpose from Tamra. I think maybe Tamra's so good subconsciously at doing it, like getting a good zinger in there, that she might not even realize that she's doing it at the time. But it ends with her storming off and just saying, screw this, I can never do anything right with you. She really tried to recover it and say, you know, I'm in therapy, I'm trying to work through it, like, I'm sorry, I was just trying to find a reason behind some of the things that were tumultuous. But again, when you mention something like that, you're not directly calling out Shannon for her drinking habits, you're attacking her father, and that just doesn't feel right. Because it was like your way to like say like, well, it's in your blood, and that really sucks. So Tamra stormed off and said she's just not going to try with Shannon anymore. Jen goes in to follow and starts cleaning up a bit, but she does take the time to ask Tamra, look, like, I need to know, was that a dig or not that you were trying to do? And Tamra says, no, of course not. I'm tired of Shannon always taking everything to heart like that and thinking that I'm out to get her, blah, blah, blah. But come to find out, Gina is talking with Shannon and saying, like, I feel for you. Like, I know what you're going through. It can be really hard. I don't want Tamra to try to make it look like you did this, like, to her and that you're barking back at her. Like, I can see why you're upset. But I also agree with what Gina says too. Like, look, Shannon, like, you can't give her any real, like, ammo to go off of too. But Shannon was like, I'm not trying to. Something I'm working really, really hard on in therapy is to have boundaries, and I need boundaries with Tamra. That's why earlier and yesterday and everything, I just said I need time, because when she does little things like that, she needs to realize they get under my skin. And if I've told her once that things like that get under my skin, then maybe she didn't know the first time and she shouldn't do it again. But if she repeatedly does something that she knows would hurt Shannon, at that point, does it become a choice? I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt and maybe say, like, oh, maybe she was just trying to give some sort of, like, reason behind the chaos growing up. But when it comes to what the reason is that Tamra brings up, like, you should have known better to, like, save that for another time, or not at all. It's not relevant now, because Shannon's a grown woman and she's talking about her childhood, so we can move on from that. At this point, they're all back in the house. Tamra storms off somewhere. Gina's sitting there. Jen's trying to clean stuff up, and Shannon's still, pouting a bit, saying, this is exactly why my therapist told me not to come, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, Gina's like, I can't take it anymore. We remember, I think it was the last episode I recapped, where I was just like, Big G finally was like, stop this, stop it all. And I think it was with, like, Tamra at the dinner table too then, but she just was like, I can't handle hearing any of this anymore. I can't handle hearing about other people's therapy sessions. I can't handle it. I love you, Shannon, but I can't handle it. And the episode basically just ends with Gina collapsing to the kitchen ground, just like sliding off of the island and collapsing. She's like, I'm done. I need to go home. Because she made a good point in her talking head. She was like, these are two women who are 61 and 57 years old, fighting like they are middle schoolers. They really are. Like, at this point, they're just fighting over who each other is as a person. Like, it's not even like there's a serious catalyst anymore, because it used to be Tamra making the comments about the drinking, or if it was about her ex, or Shannon was making comments to Tamra about maybe Tamra and something with Katie or somebody else. Like, it's just always back and forth. And boy, oh boy, it is exhausting. But we wrap up the episode there. Again, I noticed Katie not being in the episode. I like watching Katie on the show. I think she should still be with the cast, which really sucks because of how all of this transpired. It never should have been a gang up on her, in my opinion. I think it's, like, inappropriate and just lazy to just not even try to, like, work through a conflict on a show that's about, like, our lives and socializing, but whatever. Before I wrap up, I do want to mention that one of my Twitter followers let me know that my question was asked by Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live when Gretchen was on with, wait, who was Gretchen on with? Gretchen was on Watch What Happens Live with, it wasn't Demi. Oh, with Larsa Pippen, sorry. Demi Lovato was on there. Oh my God, I forget who Demi was with, but that was so cool, by the way. I'm so excited for Demi's new album, but focus, Megan. Okay, so my question was asked on Watch What Happens Live, and I honestly didn't even remember tweeting it. I don't know if it got, I think it got like 9 likes or something, but okay, thanks for liking it. But my question, well, first, let me just put up what I'm gonna put it right in front of you guys. This is what my tweet was to Sir Andrew Cohen about Gretchen in regards to Slade. All right. So we see my question there. My question was asking, how does Gretchen feel about Slade always meddling with production? Well, Andy asks this question, but he conveniently changes the word production to women.
Gretchen, Megan, me smile, wants to know if it bothers you how much Slade involves himself with the other women. Well, that's been the wrap on you, Slade.
Tell him to quit calling, Andy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my point is kind of proven, because not only does Andy kind of redirect the question to Slade, which was a little annoying, but Slade goes and answers the question, and all Gretchen can really be like is, yeah. So, like, no answer really came of it, which just kind of proves, like, Slade, in my opinion, he wants that orange, he wants that center orange so badly. I feel like he wants to be Cody Brown on Sister Wives, like the center and like all the women around him. Like, I just feel like he wants to be in it, I almost wonder who wants to be a housewife more, Slade or Joe Gorga. But I don't know. I just thought the clip was funny because my wording was different, but I need to also remember that Andy Cohen was, you know, a producer, or is a producer on the show. So I just have to play nice. I have to play nice. Bravo. I love you guys. But I do just want to know, like, how does Slade always find a way in here, you know? And this whole Tamra story now, because I guess that's actually going to be the big blow up at the end of the season between Gretchen and Tamra. I know there were some suspicions that maybe stuff about her social media engagements were brought up, which it might be still, but I think that this whole song ordeal is definitely it's gonna get ugly. So if I had to rate this episode a 5, right in the middle, 5 out of 10, 5, I'd say -1 for no Katie, and minus a couple more points for like repeated storylines. -1 for the gummy worms in Emily's purse specifically. -1 for the Slade FaceTime confusion of it all. And -1 that I wasn't born a Dubrow. I think that's 5. 5 out of 10. That's what I give it. We'll see what happens next time. Honestly, if Katie's not going to be on, like, I'm going to be annoyed. I just wish we knew what episode she would be back for. Could they tell us that? Because if it's only going to be the reunion, I'm going to be annoyed. We're on, what, episode 11 now? What are there usually, like, 16, 18 episodes? We'll see. But until then, got a lot more shows to watch. We're, like, in it now. 'Tis the season of some fall shows that we are watching here. Hopefully we can turn this season around a little bit. I think, if anything, I'm most excited for the Real Housewives of Orange County reunion, just for all of the behind the scenes stuff that's been going on. And I know normally I say I'm not into that, but I'm not into all the like behind the scenes stuff and how that like gets funneled into the actual show. The reunion I like, because whatever mess is happening between filming the last season to the reunion, I like the whole like, so what's been going on? I like that. So we'll see what happens. But until then, let's watch another franchise. Miami. Bye. Mwah.